Happiness is commonly defined as a state of emotional well-being for some, but it's more subjective than that. In one research paper by Clara Razzelli, happiness was loosely defined as the well-being of an individual drawn from their experiences and quality of life in three different but interrelated mental aspects: infrequent negative effect, frequent positive effect, and cognitive evaluations of life satisfaction in various domains. This conclusion supports our notion that one definition of happiness cannot fit everyone. To be in a state of happiness is unique to the individual. From our research, we found that when comparing the happiness levels of people with neurodivergencies to neurotypical people, the scale that they were tested on only focused on the neurotypical definition of happiness. Identifying one definition of happiness is not possible because it in itself is a subjective emotion. In our investigation, we asked the question if methods that have been proven to improve the happiness of the neurotypical population have any effect or the same effect on people with neurodivergent disorders. Before we begin, we believe that in order to tackle this question, it is important to first define neurodivergence itself. We find a general definition from a research paper published by the British Medical Bulletin, in which they conclude that neurodivergence is the diversity within an individual's cognitive ability that differs from the majority population. The amount of cases of neurodivergency has grown as more studies and testing have been conducted. Some examples of the disorders that fall under neurodivergency umbrella are but not limited to autism, ADHD, dyslexia, Tourette's syndrome, and mental health disorders like depression and anxiety. With this definition, we can now delve into our driving question. How does the definition of happiness that is taken from the neurotypical lens differ and affect the happiness levels of those who are neurodivergent, and do common lifestyles that increase happiness for the neurotypical population affect those with neurodivergent disorders in the same way?
To properly answer this question, we look into three aspects in order to come to a conclusion. The first of which was understanding the differences of happiness between those with neurodivergent disorders and neurotypical people. One thing that was very apparent was the ways that happiness is expressed can be very different and contribute to how we measure happiness in people. This can be seen in the conclusions drawn from the study titled Defining and Measuring Indices of Happiness and Unhappiness in Children Diagnosed with Autism Spectrum Disorder, in which they found that children expressed happiness by jumping and spinning rather than laughing and smiling, and in unhappy conditions, they would self-soothe by rocking and covering their ears instead of crying, which would typically be observed. What we took from these findings was that happiness can be difficult to observe and can lead to mistakes in how we judge happiness levels. In a different paper, titled Autism and the Good Life, a new approach to the study of well-being, we also found that both neurological types had the same ability in their frontal lobes to express happiness. With this, we can conclude that though neurodivergent people have different means of expressing certain emotions, they still equally have the ability to experience happiness. The effects of improving happiness through certain methods is yet to be determined, but can now not be ruled out completely.
Methods of changing the behavior of those with neurodivergent disorders such as autism can already be found in ABA therapy, a form of conditioning that emphasizes combining positive and negative reinforcement to enhance social, communication, learning, and behavioral skills, with the goal of altering behavior to conform to social norms using a variety of techniques. Many neurological disorders are connected to pick up on social cues and respond in socially acceptable ways. From what we had previously found out about how emotions are differently expressed, this is also something that is conditioned out. Now, whether ABA therapy has negative effects on the mental well-being of neurodivergent people is heavily debated, but from what we were able to find by looking at many individual reviews taken from both a study done to determine the harms done by ABA therapy, and a website run by autistic individuals, a great number of people who have gone through ABA therapy have described it as an extremely traumatizing experience and led to an increase of low self-esteem and challenges in expressing their true emotions. Though this is just one example of changing or conditioning behaviors on an individual in order to improve their well-being, it just goes to show that some methods won't have their intended effect in helping the person, though it doesn't completely discredit other therapy methods used to treat other neurodivergent disorders.
In observing other popular methods such as prescription medication, we run into just as many pros and cons. For many people with neurological or mental health issues, the right medication can vastly improve their lives and increase happiness, and the opposite can be said about the side effects of taking the wrong medication. According to research done by Kausch, taking the wrong medication could lead to neurological impairment and suicidal ideation. However, in a study done by Van Dogen, a majority of its participants with severe mental illness said that the good far outweighs the bad and increased their life satisfaction when coupled with therapy. In our overall findings, we found that scientifically proven methods of increasing happiness can definitely have an impact on the lives of people with neurodivergent disorders. If that effect is positive or negative depends on the person. Like happiness itself, it relies on the individual.